Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Good, good, good. I thank you all for joining us this evening. I thank you for those that are in person and also those that are joining us virtually. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge our elected officials in the room. Do we have any elected officials in the room? Officials, if you would stand. I thought I saw Patrick with Powder Springs. There he is, Patrick Baudouin. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Okay, so what I'm going to do is if we have any candidates here running for mayor and city council of Mableton, if you would all stand. So I think we have some mics because what I would like for you to do, listen carefully because we are very limited on time, but what I would like for you to do is introduce yourself by name and the district that you're running for. I know it's going to be difficult to try and not slip into campaign mode, but in the interest of time, if we can just stick to our name and the seat that we're running for, the district that we're running for.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, somebody else got to. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shaniqua Moore, running for District 4.
If we can also save the applause into the end, that would be a little time saver as well.
My name is Aaron Carmen. I'm running for mayor. Thank you. Oh, I'm a part of District 4. Aaron Carmen, running for mayor.
Okay.
LaTanya Long, running for mayor.
Hi, I'm Patricia Alk, and I'm running for City Council District 4.
I'm Victor Arnold, District 3.
If you guys can raise your hand when you say your names, please.
Victor Arnold, District 3.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Davis. I'm running for District 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Davis, no relation, District 1, City Council.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Yashika Marshall, District 3.
Brian Patrick, District 4, City Council.
I'm Deborah Herndon. I'm running for City Council of District 6.
Rob Pendleton, I'm running for District 4, City Council.
Stephanie Luce here in the middle, District 5.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Robert Graham, Mableton City Council, District 4.
Barry Krebs, running for District 3.
Is there anyone? Yeah, there are a couple of people I see. Okay. Who am I? You know, every day I ask myself that same exact question. That's what I ask myself, but some people tell me that I'm Commissioner Sheffield, but I need to verify that on most days. But thank you for that, because I don't think I introduced myself, so thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Ricky Dickens. I'm running for District 6.
Okay.
A little longer arms. I'm Michael Murphy, running for mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is TJ Ferguson, and I am your District 5 councilman. Sorry, I'm running for District 5.
TJ, you violated the rules. I didn't ask you, but at any rate, if we can give all of the candidates a hand of applause, because it takes a lot it takes a lot to step out and run for office. It really does. So we really appreciate your willingness to serve. So tonight's meeting, which is hosted by the chairwoman and I, is to share information and updates with the community on items that the county has been working on. So since Mableton became a city on November 8th, I believe, we have hit the ground running. Everybody that you see here on this stage, and even some that are not represented on this stage, whether they are in the audience or watching virtually, there's a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes. And we're at a point now where we have collected enough information that we can share with the residents. Now, we have a jam-packed schedule tonight, so it's likely that we may run a little over. And just by a show of hands, do we have anybody in here that has to just have a hard stop at 8:30? Because I also want to be mindful of your schedules as well. Because we may run like 15 or 20 minutes over. I just want to give everybody a heads up. So with that, I will turn it over to the chairwoman and she'll share some remarks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful that you're here tonight for this very important meeting as we talk about one of the most significant shifts that many of us have ever experienced within our county, and that is the creation of a new city. And this city is going to be predominantly in District 4, all in District 4, but it's going to dominate District 4, where I served as commissioner and where I lived for 20 years. My heart is very sensitive to the residents that I've lived with and that I've served. And it's very important for me to make sure that you know that not only am I here for you, but Cobb County is here for you. It's very important to make that clear. We're showing up tonight. We're not just here to share, but we are here to listen. So we hope that you will be engaged. We will do our very best to respond. But it's important to me for you to know that we are still Cobb County, and Cobb County is still here for you. So that's my purpose for being here. We will get into a little bit more of the discussion later on. As you know, there's been some news that we shared yesterday about the transition committee for Mableton, and that will not be formally appointed by the governor. At this point in time, you know, there's so little time between today and the elections. Really, it's going to be who you elect amongst those that stood up here today and signed up to run. Those are going to be your primary decision makers. So with that, I would ask that you do your due diligence to make sure you know who all of your candidates are. You want to know what their interests are in serving and making sure that they reflect who you believe you need to address this very significant undertaking of our county and of your community. So I appreciate you being here today. I see a hand up. We're still going through introductions. We'll be here to answer questions, ma'am, and I see you. Make sure that you have the opportunity to ask your question. Thank you. With that, next up on our agenda, I'm going to turn things over to our county manager, Dr. McMorris.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheffield. Thank you, Chairwoman Cupid. It is an awesome opportunity for us to share, if you have not yet already met many of our team members who work for you every single day. So as your county manager, I too want to echo what the chair has said, and that is we are here for you. That is the only reason we're here at Cobb, and that is to serve the residents and the visitors of Cobb County with respect, dignity, integrity, and with a sense of alacrity. So with that, let me just start with my far right, and I will introduce the team that's on the stage who will be here to answer some questions for you. I would like to introduce to some, perhaps, and others who have not met him, your police chief, none other than, if you don't mind standing, Chief Van Hooser. Your parks director, none other than Mr. Michael Brantley, best park director ever. Your community development director, Jessica Gwynn. I know you all hear from her all the time. Your elections director, Janine Eveler. The best tax commissioner in the state, Carla Jackson. How about you give it up for your tax assessor, Stephen White. The best DOT director in the United States of all of America, Drew Ressler. The best sheriff ever. Come on, give it up for your sheriff, Craig Owens. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. But before I turn the mic over, because I know we need to be on time, I want to ask the staff members who are here down front, who will also be part of this team to help the city of Mableton. If you all would say any other Cobb County employees, would you please stand, turn, and say hello to your fellow workers? Her employer and her library team also back there in the back. There's your library director as well. Thank you. We are here to serve you if you need anything. All you have to do is pick up the phone and give us a call or shoot us an email. Commissioner?
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. And before we move on with our guests, I want to acknowledge Representative Terry Cummings, if you wouldn't mind just waving to the crowd. Thank you so much for joining us. She's the state representative for District 39, and Mableton is in her district. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Janine, we'll start with you. Come on down, the price is right.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am here just to give you some information about the upcoming election. Probably a lot of it you have already heard in some of the media that's been out, but let me go through it a little bit here. We are going to have on March 21st the election for the council races and the mayor. And with the number of candidates that are in a lot of those races, we'll probably end up with a runoff, and that date will be April 18th. Now, the deadline to register for these elections is February 21st, and that includes changing an address if you have moved. So if you know anybody who that affects, please let them know February 21st. As most of you know, there are 3 ways that you can vote. You can vote absentee, advance in person, and on election day at the polls. As far as absentee goes, applications to get an absentee ballot have to be in to us by March 10th. And you can submit your application by email, fax, mail, or go to the My Voter page online and submit it through the portal, or you can walk it into us. So far, we've only received 52 applications for absentee ballots. You still have plenty of time if that's the way you want to vote. We will start mailing out ballots on the 27th of February. And of course, if you've done that before, you know you can return your voted ballot by mail or hand deliver it to a drop box. The drop boxes will be at both of the advanced voting sites. And you could also bring it to our office. The elections office is not going to have a drop box this time because we are way outside of the district, but we are putting a drop box in each of the 2 advanced voting sites. And like I said, there will be 2 advanced voting sites. They are really close together. We're going to be at the Mabel House Arts Center and at the South Cobb Community Center. We couldn't find any that were in the other areas of the district, but we felt that at least having 2 pretty good size locations, we would be able to serve the capacity of voters that wanted to vote early. Early voting starts on February 27th and goes till March 17th. There are flyers, or there were flyers out on the table out there, and then that information is also out on our website, cobbelections.org. We will be voting Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on the 2 Saturdays, March 4th and 11th, from 9 to 5. This time there will be no Sunday voting. As far as the election day polls, we have 15 precincts that are involved. The 6 of them are partial precincts. So we'll have some people that are in the city in that precinct and some that are not in the city. So people have to be very clear about whether they are in the city boundaries or not. And those maps are online, and also they can use the My Voter page to put in their address and see if they're within the city. We will be sending a letter to each person that's in the city of Mableton that will have their voting location and their district so that they can know which council race they're involved in. We are still getting the voter list together so that we can send those letters out, but we expect to do that within the next couple of weeks. You can use the My Voter page or MVP, and you can put your address in there and you can find out your district and whether you're in the city or not. We did do a couple of precinct changes, polling location changes, to let everybody know that is in Bernie 02, which formerly voted at the C. Freeman Pool Senior Center. They did have some water damage, so those voters will now go to Bethany United Methodist Church. We also had a situation where Norton Park 01 only had a small portion of voters, about 15 people on one street that was in the city. So what we did is we moved those voters into an adjoining precinct. They will get a letter. So Norton Park 01 is no longer part of the election because those people were moved to an adjoining precinct. Eventually, just to let you know, we will be reconfiguring all the precincts in the city of Mableton so that each district will have 1 or 2 polling locations and 1 or 2 precincts, depending on how big they are. And they will conform to the boundaries of the city. So we will not have these partial precincts, some people in the city and some people not in the city. But that's a bigger effort that we really didn't have time to do this time. But going forward, that's how that's going to go. And that's basically the information. Again, for absentee is one way to vote, early in person is another, and election day polls. And you should all, if you're in the city, receive a letter from us soon, but you can also look on the My Voter page, which is the MVP website, and look yourself up. Any other questions? Okay, so Commissioner wanted me to go over the cost of the election. We did do an estimate. Every time we do a municipal election, even though this is the first time for this city, we always present an estimated cost to the city governance. In this case, we presented it to Dr. McMorris and her team. We believe it's going to be about $255,000 to conduct this election. Normally, when we're doing city elections, say in the November timeframe, when many different cities are having their elections, they split that cost. And so, unfortunately, this is one election, so there are certain costs that occur for every election, and the other cities won't be splitting the cost because this is a special election. As far as, I think there was also a question about why is the county paying the cost of the election? The legislation that was passed, it did say that the county would be the superintendent for the referendum election and the special election that follows. Now, the cost of the referendum election, it's spelled out in the legislation that that is borne by the county. The legislation was silent about the special election, but we are required to conduct it. So at whatever point the county decides they maybe want to pursue that when the city is up and running, that's beyond what I would be talking about. But there is already code on the books in Georgia law that says that the municipal superintendent shall receive compensation from municipal funds. So we are tracking the costs as we go forward. And at whatever time there is a city and there are municipal funds, there might be some reimbursement. Questions?
There was a woman that wanted to, or a person or woman that wanted to ask a question when the chairwoman was speaking. Is your question specifically to voting? If not, I'll ask if we can ask your question after the voting questions. Oh, okay. All right, perfect. Can we just go ahead and get her question asked?
I was just wondering why Kemp did not sign in order to have a transition team for the city of Mableton.
That's for him to answer. It was a very brief conversation, and I was at the Capitol for another matter and ended up crossing paths with him and just asked him directly. But, you know, that's for the governor to share with this community. Is that a related question here, ma'am?
What
I'm
about
sorry, I can't see who's speaking. Okay, yes, sir.
what about the cost of the special election that we already had?
So we are still tracking the cost for that. We did not do an estimate. So I don't know the cost at that point, but again, that is specifically in the legislation that says the county must bear those costs. No, that is specifically in the legislation that the county must bear those costs.
I have a question about why were the letters not sent out in the first election to notify all the people to vote for the referendum?
I understand that there was some confusion about who was in the city and who wasn't. It is not our standard practice to send out letters. We do send out precinct cards to voters, and that is what is required, and that's what we normally do. In this case, we understand that there was confusion, so we are going the extra step and sending the letters this time, but it is not a common practice, and it is quite expensive to do that.
Excuse me. Hold on for me a moment. Hold on for me. One moment, please. What I'd like to see, and I understand that what we're dealing with right now, people are very charged. I understand that. I get that. Hold on, please. We have asked staff to join us this evening to answer questions. We have spent a considerable amount of time gathering information, ensuring that our information is accurate. Again, I understand that people are charged. There are things that some might feel could have been done better. I understand, I understand also that The county has been the scapegoat for some issues, but I'd like to see decorum tonight. I expect to see decorum tonight. That's what I expect. It is not fair to those who have come to gain information about the process. It is not fair to them, and if we continue to yell out, I will ask for people to be escorted out of the room. I'm just gonna let you know what I plan to do in case it comes up. Nobody's surprised. Because we're all here, I would hope, to gather information and understand what the next steps are. We are not here, I am not here to play political football with anyone. The bill has passed, and I understand that there are a group that does not want to be a part of the city, and I understand that. But where we are today, where we are this evening, and where we are right now, we will allow everybody here on stage to share information with you all tonight. We will also allow questions. That's why we're here. But it's not going to make the situation any better, nor is it going to reverse the vote. Mableton is a city now, and we're going to work together to move forward to ensure the success of the city. So once again, as we move forward, I will ask for decorum. I will ask that you exercise consideration to the people that are to your left and to your right. Show consideration, please, for your neighbor, even if you choose not to have any for us here on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheffield. The questions that we have here, and I don't know how many of you have the agenda, but they are categorized by subject, and we are going to have staff here answer your questions. They're here to answer your questions to the best of their technical and professional capability. If the heat is to be directed at anyone, that's what we're elected to take, is the heat, right, as your elected officials. And so I get it. I know that some of you are frustrated, and some of you very much rightfully so. I will acknowledge that. And I know if there's any questions that our staff cannot answer for you, Commissioner, at least I have some remarks. Commissioner Sheffield will do the closing, and I will have some opportunity at the end to take those questions. If you need to let it out, you can let it out on me. I can take it, all right? Because I just know how it is when you are frustrated, and certainly you have a right to be, okay? But that's just, we need our staff to be able to deliver the best to their professional capability. They didn't get elected to take that heat, we did. So that's all. So we're going to go back to elections, if that's okay. And I see a hand up over here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first of all, the city only passed by 4%, 54%. That's not a big margin. The reason it passed by 4% is 90% of the people, and I can pretty much guarantee you the majority in here, did not know what that question was about, did not know it would include them. They thought they were voting for the people of Mableton only. Not that it was going to include, if you did this all over again, this bill would not pass. And you need to have a new vote because that vote was rigged. It was not spelled out correctly. It wasn't worded correctly. Nobody knew about it. It just showed up on the bottom of your bill with no explanation, nothing about this is going to affect you. So you need to have a new vote because this bill would not have passed if it had been done correctly. This is like highway robbery. You know, you're stealing this vote for us. You have stolen this election, and I use that word correctly because it would not have passed had it been worded, had it been known about, had anybody had talked about this is going to affect you on that ballot, it would never, ever have passed. That election is stolen from all the people that voted yes that didn't know what the heck they were voting for. And you only won by 4%. That's a very slim margin. So take the people that didn't want it, you would have lost by 30, 40%. So there needs to be a new election. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you justify it. It is not fair. It's not honest to those of us citizens that did not want it and still don't want it. You need to have a new election. That's just the way it is.
Okay, let me get a word in here. The elections department, we administer the elections that are given to us in legislation, and we don't have a dog in the fight. That there was a bill that was passed by the legislature. Okay, let me finish. All right, so the legislature defined what the question would say in the law. They signed it, the governor signed it, they give it to us as the election superintendent, and we put exactly the wording in the bill on the ballot. Excuse me, let me finish. There is in law a way that people can challenge an election, and a court of law can say, that's correct, you have these points, you've made your case, we're going to redo the election. No one filed any challenge on this election. Okay, so there is only certain ways that an election can be tossed out, and that's by a court. We don't have any authority to negate any election because all we're doing is administering it. We don't have any pros or cons about what the result is. So I'm sorry you didn't know you were in the city. There were maps out. There were maps on the websites. Okay, well, again, it is not our elections. The Department of Elections conducts the election. We don't promote the election. And so that was up to the voters to find out what they were voting on.
Okay. Ma'am, we just ask that you wait for anyone who's here. If you have a mic, that's your opportunity. If you don't have a mic, ma'am, we heard you. And as the commissioner shared, we're not here to argue. We are here to listen, but we can't argue with you because if we give you that platform, there's you times 200, 300 people here, and we will never get through any of this today. I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. I will share this. I acknowledge what you're saying, and I don't think, as I've shared at the Capitol, your frustration is not unreasonable. If you don't live in if your address doesn't have Mableton, Georgia 30126, it just was not intuitive that you would be in a new city unless someone took the time to thoroughly educate you. That's a given. That's acknowledged. Still, with that today, there is still an election that we are authorized to run per the state. And I feel like the frustration that you have that started at the state, we are directed to do some things locally, but you've got to carry that to those that made this decision at the state. So, ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am. There may be some other questions, but I'm going to let some other people ask questions. And again, I acknowledge that your frustration is reasonable. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Evers, can you
Evelyn.
clarify, in the future, is it possible that you are going to make the city of Mableton pay for part of this election? Because it's not fair. I don't care what the state legislature did. It's not fair that all of Cobb County have to pay $250,000 for something that doesn't even affect them. So could you clarify that, please?
I can't clarify that. That's not something that's in my department. I conduct the elections. I don't have anything to do with who pays for it.
Thank you for that question, Judy. And this has come up before. And with other cities, the way it's done is the cities would pay for the election. But obviously, oh, there you are. Obviously, as it stands now, there are no city council or mayor in place to make those decisions. So based on the bill in its charter, which did not include who the responsibility would fall on, unlike some of the other cities that made it very clear who would be responsible, unfortunately, the Mableton charter did not provide that clarity. So regarding who would pay for it, that would be one of the items that would be up for negotiation, I believe, Dr. Jackie, when we sit down with the new mayor and the new council. But again, what I can share with you is that other cities have paid for their elections, and I wouldn't think that this would be different.
Okay.
And I may have misunderstood what your question was. I thought it was about this upcoming March election. But yes, it's true that, as the commissioner said, the cities contract with us to conduct their elections. They can either do that, they can conduct their own election, or they can appoint some person or group that will conduct the election. All the other cities in Cobb do contract with us, and they pay the costs.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Okay, so the election, the special election is $255,000. Does that include the runoff?
Estimate. No, that is the estimate for the March 21st.
So the runoff, because we have so many candidates that's invariably going to come, is even more onto that.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be borne by the new city.
At this point, that is being paid by the county, and there will be negotiations going forward as there is a governing authority of the city, a mayor and council. And so that's something that will go forward in reimbursement discussions.
So where I live, which didn't know about any of this until it happened, in Austell, far from Mableton, how do we unannex ourselves out of this? Because I didn't sign up for this.
That unfortunately is not an elections question. Are there other election questions?
Hold on, we can answer, we can respond to that. We can respond to that. If we can, and we'll have Director Gwen address that briefly. There is a bill at the Capitol, I believe, that dropped to address that. Now, there's some things that can happen at the state, and there's some things that can happen locally. Director Gwen was going to speak in community development, but we'll answer that question, as I'm sure some people are interested in knowing.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Jessica Gwen, Cobb County Community Development. And my agency does process annexation and de-annexation requests in the county. All annexation and de-annexation requests originate at the city. So for anyone who is interested in de-annexing, once the city council and mayor are established and the city starts moving forward, the city would be the one to accept that request and to consider the request.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for that clarification. And Janine, thank you so much. We're going to move on. But again, staff will be here. There was one more question. Okay. We'll allow one more question for Janine, and then we'll move on so we can kind of stay on schedule and make sure we kind of touch all of these other topics.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for allowing me to ask my question. Me and my wife live on Jones Road, which is unincorporated Cobb County, probably 600 yards from City of Austell. Now, when we look at the zoning map for the City of Mableton, everybody I've talked to says the left side of the street is Mableton. The right side of the street is unincorporated Cobb County. But my understanding is Mableton is going to go right up to the City of Austell. And when we voted, we didn't even have a ballot. And I've communicated I've tried to call, I've tried to go online with my wife and find the map, and we're in no man's land. So how do we get to the bottom of this?
Can I get your information specifically after the
Absolutely.
meeting, and I'll look it up?
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, staff will be around at the conclusion of the meeting to answer additional questions. But in the interest and essence of time, we'll move on to the next speaker, who's our tax assessor, Stephen White, and our tax commissioner, Carla Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Stephen White, Tax Assessor's Office. Thank you very much for having us out this evening. Commissioner Jackson and I wanted to, we will be here to answer any questions afterwards, should you have any, but we thought just to begin, we would just give you a brief overview of what each of our offices does. The Tax Assessor's Office, where I am at, we value property for taxation. The Tax Commissioner's Office sends the tax bill and handles collections. So the offices are different. My office is appraisers. We value property. The Tax Commissioner's Office does billing and collections. Okay. I wanted to share with everyone a question that I have been getting quite a bit, and I hope that this is very helpful. I get this question a number of times, and that is, will my assessment be raised in 2023 by the Assessor's Office because I am within the city of Mableton? So I'll say that question again. Will my tax assessment be raised in 2023 because I am inside the city of Mableton? Let me explain to you first what we do in valuing real estate. We look at sales of similar properties to yours, your neighborhood, your valuation area. What have those properties been selling for, and compare that to what the value is that we have on your property on our record. When sales are higher than the value that we have on your property, then it's time to revalue the property. So if you receive an increase in your assessment in 2023, which we send out in May, and if that assessment is higher, it is not because you are within the city of Mableton. It is because your sales in your neighborhood are doing quite well. So that's, I hope, the answer to the question. We have a very active and robust real estate market in all of Georgia, really, as I'm sure everyone is aware of that. And we have seen assessments going up lately. I'm sure that they will continue on this year. But to answer that question, we do not increase assessments because of a jurisdiction you live in or don't live in. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I would like to know, I've lived over on Brantley Drive in Austell since 2010. And I bought that, I'm going to talk hard numbers. I bought that house for $150,000, and now it's worth over $300,000 according to y'all. And you know what? According to y'all, I owe more tax because y'all say it's worth more. But I tell you this, I don't receive any extra government services, and I want to know why we have this illusory practice where the value goes up and y'all get it and the government gets a pay raise. Why do we have to pay that? And I want it changed, and I want it to stop. We need to pay tax on the amount that we paid and when we bought the house so that we can stay in the doggone thing and afford it. And just because the price of everything around us goes up doesn't mean y'all get more tax money.
Well, as I was going to mention a little bit earlier, Mableton has a special place in my heart because it's the one town hall that I've gone to in 15 years where I've gotten a round of applause. So thank you very much for that. But I understand the question, but as I stated before, sir, our responsibility is to value real estate. And so that is what my office does. We put the value that we feel you can sell your property for on January 1 of each year. And that leads to a good point. If you want to know how accurate is the value that we have placed, cobbassessor.org is our website. We have a tool there that you can search for sales in your area, and you can see, is our value right, or do you need to file an appeal? If you have any questions, Again, I'll be at the front of the stage after the meeting. I'll be happy to answer your question.
No, let's have our finance director weigh in. If we could talk about the homestead exemption and what that does for the valuation of property.
So the homestead exemption, you want me to touch on how that works? Is that sure. The homestead exemption, a state exemption in Georgia, and Cobb is a little bit unique because we have a floating homestead. So that means that when the tax assessor's office revalues your property, the general fund portion of your tax bill does not increase in value. So the other values may increase when we reassess, they will increase, but the general fund portion of your tax bill does not go up on the Cobb general fund portion. So you pay the same as long as you are the owner of the home living there and you've applied for your exemption. Any other questions?
Yes. So given this new city of Mableton, when we pay our taxes, will a portion of that go to the city of Mableton, or will there be additional taxes assessed to fund the new city?
Well, maybe it would be a good idea, in order for us to answer your question, we're starting to get in taxes. Maybe I should let the tax commissioner talk for a few minutes, introduce herself, and then we can answer questions that you may have, including that one.
All right, good evening. As has been stated, I'm Carla Jackson, your tax commissioner. And actually, to go ahead and address your question, for 2023, there will be, it's almost impossible given our digest timeline for there, even if, first of all, let me back up. The governing authorities determine millage rates, okay? So as of now, there is no governing authority in the city of Mableton. However, my office, along with Stephen's office, are already preparing the 2023 digest. And we have a very, very tight timeline to get the digest prepared and presented to the state to get approval of the digest. So given the timing of the election, the probability of a runoff, and what all goes into forming a city, I do not see that it is even feasible that there could be a millage rate for the city of Mableton in 2023. I don't see that. But let me say one other thing, is that I'm very sensitive and protective of my deadlines and my timeline to get that digest. And Steve, people will tell you, I will not let any additional work prevent us from getting our digest approved the end of July. So that is the other reason I do not see that as a reality. Talk about the digest.
So did we answer your question, ma'am? Okay. Can we have that again, please? Sure. So a tax digest is a culmination of all taxable property and all exempt property and the value associated with in every jurisdiction in every county in Georgia. We compile a total of all properties, what they are worth. We give that to the tax commissioner, and then the tax commissioner issues bills based on those values. Each jurisdiction gets one, the school system, cities, etc. I think your question was, will there be a millage rate applied for the city? Was that your question? Okay. And we don't, I supply the value, she supplies the bill, elected officials give us the millage rate for that information. So we have not, since we have no council and mayor yet, we don't have that information as of yet.
Ma'am, if I heard your question correctly, that would be up to the governing authority of the city, which would be your mayor and your council members. And also, in accordance with Georgia law, even if they were anticipating charging a millage rate, there is required advertising that has to go into that, as well as public hearings before that, can go into effect.
I- I'm really concerned because I have a property in Austell and one in Mapleton, and it's like my head is reeling because my tax bill went up exponentially. I feel like things are being really rushed, and I'm concerned about it. So when the city of Mapleton is actually established, there's going to be services that are going to be provided that my taxes are going to be paying for. But then I'm still living in Cobb County, and there's services that Cobb County is going to be providing. So I'm paying taxes for that as well, correct? See, people, it's like, we don't get any clear
It's
answers.
possible, but again, I'm sorry. It's possible, but again, the city taxes are up to the city's governing authority.
That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, so we're going to be taxed from the county, Cobb County, and then we're going to have a tax for Mapleton when that is established. Is that what I hear you saying?
That there is going to be a tax from Cobb County, so you will continue to get a Cobb County tax bill. Whether or not you have property taxes in the city of Mapleton will be up to your mayor and your councilman.
Well, how is
Or
the
council
city going to run without the taxes? See, this all feels so willy-nilly to me. I'm sorry. I just have to be honest.
Look, maybe I
It
can just,
always has been. I feel like it hasn't been really thought through, and I really respect the people that want to run for the offices and the commissioners, because it's a lot, and people have questions and concerns, and I'm like, there's so much going on, and now we got to deal with the city of Mapleton stuff. I
Maybe-
just feel overwhelmed as a citizen. I just do.
understand. Maybe this will help. The tax commissioner and I asked the question of the Department of Revenue. Do we do a tax digest for 2023? Do we compile one when there's an election in March and then a special election in April? We may not have answers on anything until a little bit later after that. And the answer from the Department of Revenue was there are many cities in the state of Georgia that do not issue a millage rate, but we still do a tax digest for. So any jurisdiction that is a city is going to get a tax digest so they know how much property they have inside their boundary. So just because we're doing a tax digest doesn't mean that there has to be an associated millage rate.
Thank you so much for having this. And I want to say that I think the anger is misdirected. It should not be at the county. There are legislators that put this through and did it, and there's only so much the county can do to protect us. That said, I would like to ask, there's some misinformation going around, and somebody is stating on Nextdoor, which is not necessarily the best source for anything true, but people are saying that our county tax will go down and to not worry about it. So I've never been so happy to have just turned 62 in my life, but I just don't think that that could be accurate. And I was wondering if that is true or false. Thank you.
Well, the answer is that neither the tax commissioner or I can answer that question because the tax commissioner and I do not set millage rates. That will be up to your jurisdictions that apply a levy on your tax bill, and they will have that answers to those questions once they start receiving preliminary projections and they get a copy of their tax digest in June. So your local jurisdictions will be the ones that you will need to ask that of.
i.e. your Board of Commissioners or the City Council. We will vote on our millage rate in July. We have not made any determination as to the millage rate as of yet. There's a lot that goes into determining the needs and the requests of the county, the services, the obligations of the county, and then the millage rate is set. We have kept the millage rate flat, and I have just, as of today, there has been no discussion with respect to that.
Hello? Hello, hello? It's on? Can you hear me now? Okay. A question for the,
Can't hear, sir.
Question for the tax assessor. I bought my house in 1992 for $63,500. Okay, in Mableton. And a couple of years ago, they built some great big giant houses up in my backyard, and my property taxes almost tripled. And I called the county, appealed it. They came out, sent a couple of guys out to take pictures of the house, and they said, when they came in, they said, oh boy, you haven't updated this kitchen. Oh boy, you haven't updated this bathroom. Oh boy, you haven't done this and you haven't done that. And no, I haven't. Okay. And then this past year, about 4 or 5 houses in my neighborhood who were owned by the same person, they came through and they gutted all of them, painted them all white, put nice black or wood shutters on them. And so now the house next door to me sold for $265,000. Okay. Now I'm guessing, almost expecting another property tax increase, and I'm gonna have to go through the same thing again. And I still haven't updated the bathrooms and put marble on the walls in the kitchen and got a walk-in shower and all that kind of stuff. And that's wrong to presume that people have done this to their house and then just raise it because the guy next door bought a house for too damn much money, you know? And yeah, and then, I mean, I turned 62 this year also, okay? So that means I won't have to pay school tax. But is the city of Mableton still going to have that school tax exemption? Or are they going to say, oh, no, you got to pay school taxes? Your kid. I don't have any kids. I haven't had kids in school in 30 years. You know, so.
Sure. Look, I'll take the home portion of it. So what I hear you saying is there's a bunch of big houses around mine. I have an older home that I haven't updated, bunch of big houses around mine that are selling for a lot more. My value shouldn't go up because of theirs, right? Right. Couldn't agree more. And so if you come to our office, we're going to value your home based on homes that are similar to yours. We do not compare a 1960 ranch to a 2023 4 sides brick, 3 times the size of yours with a finish. We do not compare the properties. We will use homes that are similar to yours. Now, if afterwards, if you come down, talk with me, I'll give you my contact information, get your address. I'm going to make sure that there's notes in there that says these bathrooms and kitchens are not updated. Okay?
And I just want to address the school tax exemption comments, just so we are clear about how the school tax exemptions are applied. You have to be 62, own and occupy your home as of January 1st of that tax year, and make application by April 1st. So if you turn 62 after January 1st of this year, you can still apply, but your exemption, school tax exemption, will go towards your 2024 taxes, not 2023. So I just want to make that clear, because I think there are a lot of people I saw that agreed with they turned 62 this year. So you have to be 62 on January 1st.
Hello, hello, can you hear me okay? Okay. First, I appreciate all of y'all for being up there, because I wouldn't want to be in any of your shoes right now. And I really love seeing everybody here participating in the process too. I think that's amazing as well. I had a question about taxes again. My brain seems to think that when the city of Mableton is being formed, that money from Cobb County is going to be taken away. Money from Cobb County taxes are going to be diverted to the city of Mableton. And that might have come from my interpretation of that. I don't know, there was a study around the other cities and how there was some information about city taxes not going up. And so my understanding was that there was going to be a diversion of county taxes to the city of Mableton so that our taxes were unlikely to go up. Could somebody explain how that might be a part of the process?
So we pay property taxes, but we also pay motor vehicle taxes, and that's through my office. And probably most of us in this room pay TAVT, which is we pay it pretty much all up front when we purchase the vehicle or when the vehicle changes ownership. You pay that TAVT taxes. A portion of those motor vehicle taxes will be diverted from the county and to the city. Okay, so I'm not sure what studies you saw and if that was clear in those studies, but it would just be for motor vehicle only. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Roger Ledbetter.
Hold on, sir. One
I've
second.
been here since 1976.
One moment. Sorry. I'm Bill Volkman. I'm the finance director, and I want to clarify that question a little bit. So Carla did talk about the title ad valorem, but there are other revenue sources that will go from the county to the city to help support that. So I think the study you're referring to is the feasibility study. So during that feasibility study, they listed a bunch of different revenue sources that are currently collected by the county, some that are not, that will go to fund the city's operations. So, sorry. All right. So I'll slow down. So we have several revenue sources in the city's feasibility study that will come from the county to fund the city's operations. Okay. Some of those that we would talk about tonight, title ad valorem is one of those. Insurance premium tax is one of those. Franchise fees are some of those. So there's a variety of them. They're all listed on the study, and the study can be found on the county's website. So property taxes are not part of that study. For the county or the city, there is no reference to property taxes. So as the tax commissioner said, tax assessor said, and the chairwoman said, per the study, there's no mention of property taxes. So that will be up to the city council and the mayor to make that determination. But there is currently no plan to divert county property tax revenues to the city. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's my question. I've been here since 1976. Okay, 47 years I've been voting. That's beside the point. Okay, what I want to do is find out, reference this committee that you got here that's going to be elected, you know, for each ward and everything of that nature. Is it going to be anything on television, on a website that they can monitor, open book or open records deal of any meetings that they have? Will it be open records, or will it be just quiet, like, and you'll never find anything out until it's too late that you can't put any input on? And will this continue while you're doing all your deliberations, as like on television, on your public broadcast, where you have an open records type, whatever you want to call it?
I'll gladly pass the mic.
Yes, sir. That's a good question. Of course, when it's, I'm Bill Rowling. I'm the county attorney. And after the city is formed, they would have to go through the same process the county would regarding open records, open meeting issues. They would have to find a place for them to be able to meet. They would come up with their own rules and procedures for how their meetings would be able to be conducted. And they'd have to comply with all of those same state rules that any other city and any other county are required to do. That's required in the charter, and it's required under Georgia law. So yes, they would have to do that.
Both Steve and Carla will be here towards the end for additional questions.
Thank you. So I'm hearing the revenue sources talked about in the feasibility study, et cetera. I didn't hear hotel motel tax. That's something I heard discussed in some conversations around these cityhood movements that I watched diligently over this past summer. My understanding is that is going to be in play for Mableton. And my secondary question here is, does this new city of Mableton have its own independent taxing authority that it can just come up with whatever tax it wants to against its citizens?
So I'm going to address the hotel motel piece. So yes, the feasibility study does include hotel motel revenue that would leave the county and go to the city of Mableton because they do have hotels within the city limits. So any city or municipality that has hotels within that would be entitled to that 8% tax. So I can definitely address that. I'm going to turn it back to you on the taxing authority though.
So, sir, if I understand your question, you said, can the city of Mableton become a taxing authority and issue a levy? Is that what your question is? Mhm. Yeah.
You kind of indicated to us that some portion of some of those is going to be rediverted to the city of Mableton. I'm just trying to understand how much authority the city of Mableton will have to create its own set of taxes, either in conjunction with yours or totally separate with yours.
But the question is, does the city of Mableton have the authority to issue a levy? Is that right?
Correct.
And again, the tax assessor's job is to issue, I never like to not be able to answer the question, but I'm not really an authority to answer that. I believe that they do have the authority to issue a levy should they pass a millage rate. That's my understanding. But again, I'm the tax assessor. I value property for its taxation. But I believe they're like the rest of the cities in Cobb. They have that ability if they so choose.
Yes.
Much easier.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. There you go, Steve. Another hand clap for you, another round of applause for you. So next up, we have Jessica Gwynn, and two of the services that the city plans to take over is zoning and code enforcement, and both are within the purview of our economic development division. So I'd like for Jessica to come up and share some updates and information.
Good evening again, everyone. Jessica Gwynn, Cobb County Community Development. As Commissioner Sheffield shared, our agency, we provide a lot of services for Cobb County. We do planning and zoning. We issue building permits, conduct inspections. We do code enforcement. Economic development is another service that we provide. Business licenses, alcohol licenses, all those come through my office. So those services, though, are proposed to be taken over by the city of Mableton. Until that time, we're continuing business as usual, continuing to provide all those services. As the transition moves forward, we do look forward to working with the mayor and council once they're in place to look at how the transition moves forward and when those services transition. I'm glad to answer any questions anybody has about that.
Also address, because some questions have come up, well, at what point does the new city council take over zoning, and what happens with zoning until that happens?
And those are all good questions. Whenever the city takes over zoning, once they're ready to do that, they'll notify the county. And at that point, there will be a timeline that's determined that, when that transition will happen. When the city of Mableton takes over zoning, does the zoning of your property change? No, not until they go through the same public process that you would go through with the county. There would have to be public hearings. You would have to be notified. But typically what happens with a new city, and prior to coming to Cobb County, I actually worked for a new city in another county. Typically what happens is that initially the county zoning carries over. Ultimately, that's up to the mayor and city council, but typically the county zoning would carry over with the start of the city. Typically, they adopt the county zoning ordinance, at least for the time being, until the city is in a place that they're ready to adopt their own zoning ordinance. So at that point, once the mayor and council is appointed and elected, rather, at that point, then that'll be in the hands of the city of Mableton, and all the residents will have the opportunity to participate in that process.
Hi, thank you. My question is, I think you kind of answered that, but I had an instance in my neighborhood where a house was suddenly turned into a 6-bedroom house and was approved as a pad split property, where it would be kind of like a boarding house and people would rent out the rooms and they shared 2 bathrooms and a kitchen. Because of Cobb County zoning, that was fixed and remedied, and the house is back to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So from what I understand, then the city of Mableton, when they take over, they could technically, somebody could say, okay, every other house can turn into this, and there would be no assistance or recourse from the county. We would kind of be on our own with the city for that. I just wanted to confirm.
That's correct. At the time, whenever the city takes over zoning and code enforcement, if they allow for that within the city, then ultimately it would be up to the city to conduct code enforcement on that, either way. So, yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. With all the development here in Austell, I mean, every time you turn around, there's new development, particularly right there on Floyd Road. And I'm just wondering, when zoning is considered, is the traffic also considered? Is the congestion, the congestion of all the traffic? We have a new development on Floyd. There's another one right across the street on Mapleton, right there at Floyd and at the intersection of at Floyd and Hicks Road. Then if you go further down, there's another one being developed. So I just want to know, was that all a part of the city of Mapleton being considered?
Those are all excellent questions and about how the zoning process works. And, whenever a rezoning request comes in, it comes into my office. At that point, our professional planners review the request. They look at what's being proposed. It also goes out to other agencies in the county. So for instance, and you're sitting up there with Ms. Judy Jones, our water director, her department reviews and provides comments. We've got Drew Ressler up here with DOT. The Department of Transportation, they do look at traffic studies. And based on the development that's proposed, what do we anticipate the traffic increase will be, and what will be the impact on our infrastructure? And as part of that process, all of those reviewing departments provide feedback that goes into the zoning report that's considered by the Planning Commission and also the Board of Commissioners. And they'll include in their recommendations, for instance, that may help to mitigate some of those impacts. And also, as we make recommendations to the Planning Commission, and as the Planning Commission makes recommendations to the Board of Commissioners, as to whether or not a rezoning should be approved, or whether or not there should be some conditions placed on it, all of those things are taken into account. So that's how it works in the county, but I'll tell you, that's how it works in cities also. It's a similar process. So you can look forward to, as the city of Mableton takes on zoning, at that point, I would expect that there will be a similar process. It's all a public process by state law. We're required to do all of that publicly with public hearings, and it is a thorough process. It's a great question. Thank you.
I have a novice question here about how cities or new cities are created. So if they are taking over zoning, will they have to staff up? Will the staff that manages zoning in Cobb County transfer over to the city of Mableton to maintain zoning? Or is this like if you're building a new business, you have to staff up to manage all of these new processes? Is that how it works?
That's exactly right, actually. It is, and the comparison, starting a new business, it's similar. Yes, whenever the city of Mableton takes over zoning and all the services, at that point, it'll be up to the city to determine and to hire staff or contractors or however they want to provide that. They will provide those services. The county staff, the county zoning staff will continue to work for Cobb County.
This question is mostly for Commissioner Sheffield. Okay, Mableton is taking away a lot of your territory. Mableton is taking away a lot of your territory. So what are you going to be in charge of now? Or how are you going to be representing us?
Judy, it's not that simple. Mableton becoming a city does not mean that I lose 77,000 residents, because I'm still the commissioner for the district. Much like our other cities, I have a healthy relationship along with our chair and our county we have a healthy relationship with our other cities, and I expect the same to be true with Mableton. So there will be communication with your new council and also with your mayor. Now, perhaps some of the day-to-day items that I'm involved with, you'll have a city council for that, but I'm still here as your commissioner. It is still my goal to move District 4 forward. I'll just be doing that in partnership with your new mayor and city council.
And let me just add, the city of Mableton proposed limited services. They are not a city comparable to our other existing cities that have the full range of cities. So Commissioner Sheffield will still be here serving on behalf of constituents, particularly directly on matters that the city of Mableton will not be taking over.
Hi, I have a question over here. I'm sorry, but it's related to the tax person. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay.
I didn't get a chance to ask them before. So,
Yes, sir.
approximately how many people are you aware of are going to be in the city of Mableton?
Well, people I don't know. Parcels is about, and I don't know that, but parcels is about 28,000 parcels of real estate.
So I'd say probably at least, I've heard 77,500. Let's take that number. Do you know a city in the state of Georgia that has that many residents that do not have a millage rate?
I've been told by the Department of Revenue that there are cities. I did not ask for parcel count size, but they told me that there are cities.
But is it not likely that in order to support that kind of city, you would need a millage rate?
Yes, sir. I can't answer that question.
There is logic involved, I assume.
Understand.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. It's, I forgot your name, Jessica. Are you guys like severely overworked and you just don't have the staff to take care of Mableton? I mean, is this really going to relieve a burden on your office, or is this like something you guys are doing right now with no problem? This zoning and enforcement I'm talking about.
Right. I mean, we've been providing zoning and code enforcement for the Mableton area for as long as we've been doing in zoning and code enforcement. Right now, from a zoning standpoint, we are very much well equipped to continue handling those services. If the city had not incorporated, from a code enforcement standpoint, we currently have 4 officers who serve the Mableton area, and the Board of Commissioners in the 2023 budget actually approved 4 additional code enforcement officers that would be able to spread out throughout the county, but also to further support the code enforcement efforts in Mableton. Of course, as the city of Mableton is ready to transition and take on those services at that point, we'll utilize those staff on other areas of the county.
Hello. I just had a couple of questions. One, can you talk about what the service agreement might look like between Mableton and Cobb County? And I'm sure Cobb got a lot of ARPA funds and a lot of bipartisan infrastructure funds. And will any of that be shared with the city of Mableton?
We just announced our awardees for the ARPA grant. I perceive that some of those services may be provided throughout the entire county. I have not heard of any limitation if they're within a city proper. So I perceive that some of those services can still be provided. Along those similar lines, the IIJA, the infrastructure grant that you're referring to through the federal government, is available for any jurisdiction to apply to. So the city can have the opportunity to apply for those as well. I don't know if we have active applications within the city of Mableton. Oh, okay. So we do have a project. Anything that we've received, we will still be investing in the jurisdiction. Look, for us, as far as we're concerned, it's business as usual until the new city council tells us otherwise. We just, like Director Gwen shared. We added 4 new code enforcement officers. We will ask them to serve the community. As far as the Chattahoochee River development, we will still be moving forward with that. So until the new city council tells us to, back off, we are here to be hands-on in our service.
Hello, I have a question for Jessica. In your experience with this new city in another county, how long did it take that new city to form their planning and zoning department?
Well, typically, and again, the city of Mableton ultimately will proceed however their mayor and council determines is most appropriate. Typically, there's a 2-year time frame for them to take on those services. A lot of times what happens is that initially those services are outsourced. They may hire a company to come in and kind of start it up. As you can imagine, starting a planning and zoning department from scratch, or any government service from scratch, takes some time, and you would certainly want to have the experts, the right professional experts in place to make that happen. But ultimately, it'll be up to the mayor and council to determine when they're ready to take that on their own, and whenever that determination is made, we're glad to work with them to help ensure that's a smooth transition.
I have just one question. Well, actually 2 questions. Okay, 2 questions. Who is going to be responsible for cleaning up the roads in Mableton? I mean, you drive up and down the roads and it's so much litter on the roads. And it's pathetic. Me and my wife walk around the block and we take garbage bags with us to try to clean up, but it's more than any 2 people can do. Okay, the other question was the racetrack, the East-West Connector is a racetrack. On Sunday nights, there's cars running up and down that. They're way over the speed limit. And if you go up in the parking lot of the theater, you'll see donuts cut up and burn up in the parking lot. So it's getting to be dangerous around this area.
That addressed as well.
Okay. Again, thank you, Jessica, and we'll have staff as 8:22, and we still have a few more people to get through, so just bear with us. Next, we'll have up Drew Wessler, who is our Director of DOT, and he'll also touch on the question that was answered regarding litter in the roadway.
Good evening, Drew Wessler, DOT. Thank you for having us tonight. Before I jump too far into some of the city considerations, I did want to let you all know a little bit about what your Department of Transportation does. So we maintain within the city limits of Mableton about 312 miles, centerline miles, 24 bridges. That does include the covered bridge. 72 of our 578 traffic signals are within Mableton, 131 bus stops, and 6,000 streetlights, as well as 9 miles of trails. So the department is responsible for both the transit system, as well as the roadways, from everything from operations to maintenance and improvement. In terms of improvement, we do have a number of projects that we have moved forward just recently. That includes just Tuesday, the Board of Commissioners approved resurfacing of 53 streets within the city limits of Mableton, which equates to about 11.8 miles in total, $53 million in total of contracts, but 53 streets that were resurfaced or will be resurfaced this year. We have 8 different construction projects, 13 different projects in pre-construction. Some of those projects include the trail on Mableton Parkway, the trail to be built along the Chattahoochee River, a number of sidewalk projects throughout the city, as well as a few intersection improvements throughout. So the Cobb County Department of Transportation will continue to serve Mableton, continue to maintain the roadways and the roadway network. In terms of the question about trash, That is our responsibility. There's a lot of trash on the roads. A lot of trash on the roads. We pick up in a year, just DOT, close to 60 tons of trash off of the Cobb County roadways. An enormous partner with the Department of Transportation, because we can't do it ourselves, is Keep Cobb Beautiful and our friends over at Solid Waste. Barry Krebs was here. I know he's a member of Keep Cobb Beautiful and does a lot with that. So we rely very heavily on the public to help us with trash. We are hurting for workers. And so very transparently, trash has been something that has been a challenge for us, both given the volume and given the challenges that we have in staffing and the fact that we're always going to prioritize safety improvements and get those done first. So making sure that we take care of potholes and areas where folks could be hurt, guardrail things like that. So that is what we do. Now, in terms of the city and how this relates, because if we look back at the feasibility study, transportation was not specifically mentioned as a service that the city intends to provide. Of course, as others have said, ultimately it will be the responsibility of the mayor and council to determine which services and when those services will be provided. Our responsibility as the county is to work very closely with the city to make sure. I listed all of that infrastructure, the covered bridge that is beloved, a historical landmark within the county, all of that infrastructure that we all depend on every day. Our goal is to work very closely with the city to make sure that continues to be maintained safely and efficiently for all of the residents. So two other items just very specific to the city and as it relates. One of the funding sources that Bill mentioned earlier was franchise fees. Franchise fees, there's some differences in the state law between what counties and cities can collect. And the feasibility study indicated that the city would be eligible to collect 4 different franchise fees. And those are fees that are paid directly from your utility bill. And there are line items within the utility bill for gas, power, telecommunications, and one other. Forgive me. Cable, telephone, gas, and power are all for the use and occupancy of the streets within the city. So that is an eligible revenue source for the city. Additionally, per state law, and I have the excerpt here, the new municipality shall assume the ownership, control, care, and maintenance of road rights-of-way handled within the area or located within the area incorporated unless the county agree otherwise by joint resolution. So again, our responsibility is to make sure that that infrastructure that I mentioned earlier is maintained safely, is maintained efficiently, and that we work very closely with the city to work out exactly how that is done. Some of those details we're just not going to be able to answer right now, but again, our commitment is to make sure that that continues. Additionally, that the projects that we have begun, those projects are vastly funded through the special purpose local option sales tax, all of that resurfacing sidewalks, all through the SPLOST program. That SPLOST program identified funds for specific purposes, including resurfacing, sidewalk drainage repairs. We are continuing, just as I mentioned, we are continuing to deliver those projects, and we'll continue to do so and work very closely with your mayor and council as they're elected.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask you. Okay. I'd just like to ask you about the future of Mableton. You know, I'd like to answer some of these questions people have been asking about the trash. You know, yes, we do have a trashy town, but it's because the people that live in it just throws the trash on the ground. And I said, you know, y'all want a better town? Y'all want a better city? Let's start helping us clean this place up. There's several volunteers in here, different groups like Mick. And all, we get out here and clean up trash every weekend because we care about our community. We don't get paid. I mean, I don't care about getting paid. We just want to get out here and do it. And but in the future, we're gonna have a city. We need to work together, y'all. We can't fuss and fight about this stuff. I mean, we got to work together. Now, I didn't run for no office or nothing because I'm just a, you know, comfortable just picking up trash. But I'm telling y'all, man, we got to start working together around here and all this fussing and fighting. Because it's a city. Y'all, it's a city. And you know what? We can do so much with this. Man, we got more people in this city than, the biggest in Cobb County. And let's work together. And if y'all need to get in touch with me, I'm on Friends of Mableton page on Facebook. Call me and ask me any question you need.
Okay. So my question is about the 285 I-20 expansion, to create our own little spaghetti junction right here in our backyard. So what are the plans that the county has for the volume of traffic that will be on the arteries as a result of this 5-year construction plan?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So we work very closely with our partners with the Georgia Department of Transportation. That is a GDOT led project at the interchange of 285 and I-20. Had a meeting with them just last week to talk about that project specifically. They talked about a number of the closures and detours. All of those closures and detours are in Fulton County and on City of Atlanta, Fulton County roadways. But they have made us aware of them. And our goal, even though that project is outside the jurisdiction of Cobb County, because that interchange is on the other side of the river, it is in Fulton County. But our goal is to stay very closely tied in with GDOT to understand when they do have closures, when they do have lane interruptions. We have a traffic management center over on county services that we will continue to operate that looks at where traffic is being diverted to either intentionally or unintentionally. Thank you, Waze. And we utilize that information to make adjustments to the traffic signal timing in our various operations to make sure that we handle that as efficiently as possible. So staying very closely tied to our partners at GDOT is critical.
Hi, I'm on Anderson Mill Road, and there's a SPLOST project from SPLOST money from 2016 that is supposed to give us a sidewalk from Flint Hill to Austell Road. It was supposed to start in February of this year. It has then since been pushed back to, I think about a month ago, it was scheduled to start in December of this year. And now I looked at it yesterday, and it's not until September of 2024. So I'm just trying to figure out, you kind of mentioned that there are some things that are safety that are in place, but do you know why stuff like that keeps getting pushed back?
I'd be glad to look in the specifics of that schedule. I know that project is in pre-construction. A lot of times the delay on projects is related to right-of-way acquisition. So anytime we put in a sidewalk, that sidewalk inevitably will have to expand the footprint of the county's right-of-way. And to do that, we negotiate with each property owner. And to do that, both the right-of-way as well as the utility phases take some time, but I'd be glad to look into that project specifically to figure out what the purposes of or the reasons behind that delay.
Good evening. I have a question. Well, first I want to thank the gentleman who volunteers to clean up trash. I agree we need to clean up as a community, and I appreciate your service and everyone else who volunteers. But I have a question for DOT and maybe the sheriff. Is there a reason why inmates don't help clean up? Where I'm from, inmates are out regularly cleaning up. And I just want to know if that's an option for the county.
So I just wrote that down on this notepad I had here. So I'll tell you why we currently do not use inmates. It's because of classification. They have to be at a certain classification, meaning the charge level, before we allow them to come out and do things in public. So when COVID came, we stopped taking lesser crime individuals and only really took our most serious crime individuals. So right now, I have a population of a lot of serious people. So I don't have those low-grade misdemeanors that we normally put out and do things there. So hopefully by the summer, I'm hoping that some of those will change. Yeah, and some of those may change, and we have some of those if that occur. And the DOT, trust me, he asks me about that all the time. So you're absolutely right, but that is something we can do if the classification of individuals change.
You know, when we talk about cleaning up the backyard, like you say, we do it every week because there's a bus stop at our backyard, and people who ride the bus, they have or whoever riding up and down the street have a tendency of throwing trash in our backyard. So every week it's a trash bag full of trash that we have picked up. So beginning August 30th last year, I have called and called again, requesting, and I have names of people that I've talked to I've submitted requests for a trash and bench to be placed at the bus stop that is behind my house, and maybe pedestrians and users of the bus transit system could use the trash can instead of spewing trash on on the ground, because we edge the sidewalk. We cut the grass along there for it to be beautified, but we just need some help if at all possible.
Absolutely. First, before I answer, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing in picking up trash. It is very important. We all live here. I'm a Cobb County resident. Y'all are all Cobb County residents. So it is very important, and we appreciate what you're doing. In terms of the transit system and bus stop improvements, that is something that falls within DOT. I'll hang around after. Would love to know the specific location so that I can look into that for you. Because I agree that shouldn't be your responsibility to take care of our riders. Now, with that said, what the project in terms of benches, what we are working through right now is we have a grant to be able to improve the vast majority of our stops and our shelters throughout the county at all of our bus stops. And that project is being worked through very systematically. So we have an initial batch of where we anticipate those to be improved. Ultimately, that will come to the board. So we're very early in those stages, but we are in the works of improving all of our bus stops to improve the seating, the trash facilities, and then along with that would not just be the infrastructure, but the contract to make sure that those facilities stay cleaned and on a regular basis.
We do have a bench and a garbage can at the corner of Factory Shoals and Gordon, and they still throw the trash all over the place, right near the school. It's an absolute mess near the elementary school, and it's not the school kids because they're being picked up by their parents and bused. So it's other people who are driving through or throwing stuff out of their cars and so forth. So that may help some, but my big question is, I don't know if it's your department or not, but we have a lot of trees in our area, and they could be beautiful, but they're horrible looking. It's the worst looking trees I've ever seen in my life. And they're just old, and they're dying from the top. They've got these vines growing all over them that's killing them. Who's supposed to take care of that? Is that the enforcement, or are they on county property, or does the enforcement department have to talk with the property owners who may be absentee landowners to do something about their trees? They're horrible looking trees. They could be beautiful. They once were, apparently, but it's just a horrible, horrible sight. I'm ashamed when visitors come from other places. We have a lot of trees that could be beautiful, but they're horrible looking. Horrible.
I can speak only to the trees within the right-of-way. Outside of that, I would have to defer to others. But the trees within the right-of-way are our responsibility. And we do routinely work with the county arborists through community development to go out, look at those. If they are deemed a safety risk, we do remove those trees for the benefit of public safety. Regarding trees on private property, that becomes more of a private matter with the property owners.
Well, in the interest of time, we'll take one more question for DOT.
Thank you. I don't have a question for DOT. He's already expressed all the beautiful things that he said he's doing, understand, for the new city of Mableton and Cobb County. I want this for anybody and all of y'all up there. Tell me and the citizen here the good things and the benefits that the city of Mableton, new city, is gonna get by being a city. All that other, just tell these people the good thing, the benefit that they finna get. They finna be a city. Tell them what they can look forward to. And that'll help out.
Taxes.
There's a saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I'm blind.
So that was a subjective question for all of you, at least so I thought. And I could tell you one benefit I experienced today, even before I came here today. I serve on our Board of Public Health, and there are seats reserved on that public health for the largest city in the county. So guess who now would have a seat at the table because of your size? So that was a pleasant surprise to me of a benefit that comes with your size. Look, not every day do you have the opportunity to see your neighbors as frequently as I'm sure you've seen them in discussion of this. And as hard as challenging things can be, there's some of us believe that there are always great things on the other side of challenges, right? So you've got to look at this as an opportunity. I mean, there are questions and considerations for de-annexation for some people in this room, and those conversations are being had, and this is just maybe more of a Cupidism of dealing with what's before you today and just us seeing how we can maximize the opportunities before us today. So, that's for it to be determined by those in this room. I appreciate the comments by some of our citizens about figuring out how to work together. That's the blessing of trying to figure out how you work with your neighbor.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. And thank you all for allowing us this additional time. But as we move forward, next up, we'll have our Chief of Police and our Sheriff to come up. And again, the staff will be around towards the end or at the end of the meeting for additional questions. But we can have the Chief and the Sheriff. And part of the reason, and what I want you guys to also cover is service delivery. So police and fire is still a service that Cobb County will provide to the city, to the citizens of Mableton. And we just want these guys to talk about what that means for you as a new city.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheffield, and thanks to all of you for coming out. I can say that I speak for the sheriff and I when I say that Mableton is home in one way or another to us. I grew up here, and Sheriff Owens actually lives here. And together, we provide public safety services to you guys, especially in the field of crime and the criminal element. We take that seriously. Both he and I have been the precinct majors here, and I can assure you that going forward in the transition period and forward of that, so long as the city does not decide to do something differently, my role as the police chief will be the same exact role as it has been for the last 33 years, and that is to provide not only safety, but the feeling of safety, the sense of safety. We are disturbed by hearing stories of people that are afraid to go out and do this or that, or children hearing gunshots. And we do what we believe to be a pretty good job in Cobb County of making sure that that's far less here than it is in other jurisdictions of a similar size. And so it's been our honor to do that, and we assure you we are committed 100% to continuing to do that in any capacity that we are asked to, and to continue that for, y'all clap, Steve, I got so really and truly, I don't really know what else to say except for we're committed to this job. Every uniform that you see in this room tonight is here for your safety and risks their life for you, and we will continue to do that just exactly the same as we have been heretofore. So I thank you guys, and I'll certainly take questions if you have any, and I'll let Sheriff Owens clean it up for me.
Hey, well, good evening again. So I just a couple of things to add. So the services for the sheriff department will not change. However, for the city, it will change. I said that twice, it will not and will, right? So how it would change for the city is this: just like we do for any other city, that may have someone that's arrested in Cobb County to come to our facility. They have to sign a contract with us for us to take those individuals on behalf of the police department. So there'll be a contract between the city and the sheriff's office to provide those services and accept in my facility. That'd be the only really difference for the city, because we do it for every other city, it'd be the same. So the sheriff department continue to do everything else we normally do, no differences other than having a contract with the city on regard to inmate services. So I guess we're ready for questions.
Commissioner Sheffield asked me to share some crime numbers with you guys, and we stay on top of this every other Wednesday. We have a meeting and we discuss crime numbers in every single precinct. This is precinct 2 for us. It's district 4 for the commission, but for us it's precinct 2 for the most part. And over the last 5 years, we have seen about a 35%, y'all think, increase or decrease in crime? Okay, if you think it's an increase, raise your hand. Okay, is that based on news, I would guess? We've had a 35% decrease over the last 5 years. We do beat analysis where we take very small areas of the county and we analyze the beat in those, the crime in those areas. And what's very encouraging is we have seen one of our higher crime areas, which is located in this precinct, reduce drastically in the last 3 to 4 years. Very much lower. It is no longer the #1 beat. That has moved to a totally different area of the county. It sounds like crime is higher there. It is not. All I'm saying is that crime in that particular beat has dropped lower than it dropped in other areas of the county. So it's very good news. We take our job seriously here. We do a lot of creative thinking, a lot of strategizing, and what we're really trying to do now is be sure that there's continuity between leadership, because as he and I can attest to, we have to change majors, which is a little police chief for your area, basically. We have to change those over time just because we have people retiring and people have to move based on their specialties and their knowledge. So one thing we have tried to do, where's Matt Hurst? There he is, up there. He is your current commander. He's like the mini police chief for this area. Sheriff Owens was one, I was one. Chief Hamilton, who's now in Austell, was one. And so we choose them very carefully. And so we hope to have some continuity. His officers are actually going out on overtime to do foot patrols, to get to know the residents, to make sure people are safe in these higher crime areas. And that's not mandated overtime. That is not mandated. That's these officers caring enough about that community to actually go and do that on their own. So lots of good news. We've seen crime decreasing. I will not lie, not every single category of crime has decreased, but crime is definitely on the decline here. And by contrast, if you watch the news, and I'll knock on wood a little bit, I pray a lot. I really do pray for my community and my officers' safety. But turn on the news and see the horrific things that are happening across the nation and in this region. And we've been very fortunate, and it's due to the men and women that put on these uniforms and our public safety agencies and the support that we get from our commissioners and from you. So the thanks goes to our community and the folks that work so hard to keep everybody safe.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Chief, I sent you an email to your work email. You can read it tomorrow and address it. I had an overflow question for the Department of Transportation as far as what's the criteria for a community being repaved, those streets being repaved. But since I have you on the line, Chief, I have a question. New Year's Eve, clock strikes 12, and the guns start going off. Year after year, same vicinity, same area.
What can we do to prevent that or notify you of that? Or, you know, maybe you can do a little sting. So when you hear the gun goes off, you know, you can immediately act on that. But that concerns me because it's very close to my home and I'm afraid of stray bullets.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. And there have been, in other areas, there have been actually people injured and killed. I'm sure you heard about that this past New Year's Eve. But for us, it is a very, very busy night. And we get a lot of calls for gunshots and fireworks. And so it's very difficult for us to distinguish which is which. So we do go check those as quickly as we can. But normally those are backed up a great deal. We will be announcing soon a public safety forum that will be held here, we believe. It's probably about a month away if everything goes as planned, but part of that is going to be gun safety. And part of what we also do is put out social media messaging, and our social media guys are right here. And he will be announcing that, but we also push out information around these holidays that discourage people from using that. But it's a very big problem, and we probably could partner with our media to actually get those types of messages out more broadly. Thank you for the suggestion and the question.
I just wanted to commend your department for doing an amazing job. I think public safety is amazing in Cobb County. I recently had an incident at my home and 2 burly officers responded really quickly. It was only a lizard that set off my sensor, but just thank you for everything that you do. I really, really appreciate it.
They don't always have to be burly. That's all I got to say.
I'm just going to add this to your public safety question, and which also that we work very well. Sheriff's office to increase our protection for our citizens. If you didn't know, we moved a substation here to this area. I guess it's going to be in the city of Mableton now. So we got a new sheriff's substation here, adding more deputies in this area, as well as we're increasing some of our deputy patrols, meaning we got guys after they serve, once they do other things, they're actually going to stay in the area and to patrol more as well to give any assistance to the police department, because as she said, they are extremely busy. And I can tell you, we're not here never to take the police job, we're just here to help them. So if whatever help I can give to him in any other city, we're going to give it to him. So if extra sheriff patrols I can provide, which we will on New Year's night, if they need the help, he'll call me like he will if he needs something, and I send extra deputies out to help out as well.
Hey there, thank you very much. Thank you very much for what you guys do in the police force and sheriff's department. Every Halloween, we get inundated with trick-or-treaters, and you guys send out your patrols to patrol our subdivision. We appreciate it very much. They see that Cobb County police car rolling through, and any kind of things they want to do, they move to another area. Thank you. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you right now, because you guys are having a lot of humor up there, which is important. Humor lightens the mood. Keep going.
I wish I could get this crowd at all of my other police meetings. This will be very helpful.
To the gentleman talking about the trash and getting together, I got one thing to say. Hey, I appreciate you getting out there and doing that. I'm right down here. I'm over here. I'm over here, right here. I appreciate you making that suggestion, getting together and everything. But remember, dissension is essential for freedom to survive. If we do not dissent from what government does to us, we will be subjected. We will be nothing but subjects. So, we will be communist China if we don't dissent. Dissension is essential. So if you want to dissent, dissent. Be loud, be strong, stand up for what you believe in.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have a final question because I see that people are filtering out, which I understand because we're a little over time. So we'll take one more question, preferably from someone we have not heard from before, if we can just allow them to have the mic. Dr. Gibson? She's already, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, yeah.
I have a question. Oh, I hate this. I have a question for the Sheriff Owens. Will it cost the county, I mean, the city of Mableton more money? I mean, you say a contract, will that cost more money to house prisoners in your jail?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna say it's gonna cost more money, but it will cost money.
It will
It'll be the
cost
same,
money.
around the same we charge every other city who houses our facility.
Okay, that's kind of what
Yes,
I
ma'am.
wanted to
Yes,
know.
it will cost them. They will have to
Mhm.
pay.
It will cost.
Yes, ma'am.
It will cost, in other words. Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Can I ask a question real quick though, just to follow up to that? Is you said that it would cost the city, but at the same time, there we don't provide for like double taxation, so to speak. Is that correct? I don't know who can address that, if the sheriff can address it or someone else.
I can't speak on taxation at all. That's not my
Okay.
purview.
Well, or even like from a fee perspective, because I mean I think that might be a concern.
Yeah, they're
like,
not
is it-
getting charged twice for housing inmates. They're only getting charged once, so it's not twice. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Bill, yes, are there going to be continuity in services from fire?
Hey, good evening. My name is Bill Johnson. My permanent job is the fire chief here in Cobb. Right now I'm serving as the interim public safety director because the public safety director retired. Up here you have your acting fire chief, Kevin Gross, and we'll be around at the end. But to answer the question, we will be your fire department just as we are unincorporated Cobb County. We report to Dr. McMorris, the Board of Commissioners, the citizens. We will be your fire department. You will see zero changes in service once the city becomes incorporated or decides on, as long as they don't choose to have their own fire department, once the city takes over, we will continue to provide the exact same services. Your 911 department is going to be the same, emergency management, animal services. You've already heard from the police chief. So all public safety is going to stay the same.
I know that there are still a lot of questions and concerns out there, and we have pushed beyond the time that we had slated for this. Some of us will still be here. I know I want to be respectful for the staff that mans this building, so we could take this outside if we need to. You know, when they start flickering the lights, that's going to be a sign. But we are also here via email. Please feel free to reach out to us. There had been some questions about who is the point of contact for the city of Mableton. And because there was no transition committee, you are all the point of contact for the city of Mableton, which is why we put out the press release when we found out about the transition team. We have a website for this effort on our Cobb County page. Ross, is there a quick URL for it? cobbcounty.org/Mableton. We try to put up FAQs, so when we get a question from one person, everyone has the opportunity to see the response to those frequently asked questions. So please continue to reach out to us. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate that. Here to serve, and we are here to serve. We want to hear from you. I don't know if you want to do this again, because do you want to do this again? Okay, well, let's do this again. And so we can continue to answer your questions. Just know again that when the new city council is elected, they speak on behalf of the city. We are here to speak on behalf of the county. I know you have your hand raised, ma'am. If I let you ask, I got to let everybody ask. And oh dear. There have been candidates forums that have been offered through, I believe, the Mableton Improvement Coalition. Joel is raising his hand behind you. Yes, he can help connect you with those events. All right, thank you. On that note, I'm going to let Commissioner Sheffield go ahead and close this out as a district.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate your attendance. And as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, I know that there are a lot of there's a lot of anxiety and angst. So we're hoping that the answers that we provided and the updates that we provided with you all tonight at least help to answer some of your questions. The chair mentioned that you all would be interested, or you actually responded that you would be interested in having another town hall.
So our thought is, and depending on timing, we know that the elections are coming up. We would love to have a town hall with the new city council so we can just all kind of fill in the gaps and the blanks at that time. Is that something that the majority of people would like, or would you like to meet again before? Okay, all right, all right. So I'm hearing before, okay, all right. The majority of the people rule, so they said before. However, we can still have a joint town hall once the new city council is also seated. So that sounds like that's a good plan for everyone? All right. Who? The question was, when will the town hall be announced? Well, what we're going to do, we're going to check with schedules with everyone. But hopefully that would be at some time in March. The election is on the 21st, so we'll try and have it before then, but I'm not going to make any promises because I have to rely on the schedule of others. All right, everyone, have a good night.